What is going on, guys? Joey here, and I'm here with FLEXX coaches Delaney and Jeremy. Say what's up, guys.
What's up,
What's
y'all?
up?
And today, instead of just me coming on here talking to you guys by myself, you guys hear me a lot, right? I'm gonna have the boys give you some keys. So the topic that I wanted to talk about today um, was you're coming into a meet. It's meet week. It's that weekend right before your meet, and I thought that it would be useful to just kind of go over some things that lifters might want to keep in mind or do to allow them to just have a better meet. Just small things to pay attention to, some adjustments that they may make that they wouldn't normally make. Just that little extra step to really kind of get the most at the very last minute. As you guys know, like programming wise, you could screw up a meet if your taper is like bad. If you're doing too much during meet week, then obviously you're not going to be recovered. That's why it's so important. But aside from that, you know, the stuff that you do outside of the gym can really help you just get a little bit more out of meet day, and then we'll talk a little bit about just some meet day mindset stuff at the end. Let's start off with Jeremy. Jeremy, and you can speak from your own experience or your experience with your lifters. Is there anything that you do differently coming into a meet, or that you normally aren't doing, or just something that you are doing but you're like really doubling down on it, and it could be one thing, it could be multiple things. Like let us know what's up.
Yeah. Obviously, this is what you should be doing in your everyday training, especially during a meet prep. But just building good habits in your everyday training and continue doing them, like taking care of your sleep, taking care of your nutrition, building good habits that help you reduce stress. Of course, that's something you want to be doing in your meet prep, but especially keep that in mind during your taper week. It's no different than the rest of your prep. Um, as for specific to the week, stay on top of what you need to do in order to compete, right? So, assuming you have to cut weight, make weight, you're gonna have to be tracking accurately, and you have to make sure that your weight cut protocol is followed to a T, right?
Hmm.
Making weight is pretty much what allows you to compete, right? Like, let's say you're at nationals, you miss weight, now you're a guest lifter. If you're at worlds, then you can't compete. So if you're just slacking on following the protocol, then you're a putting yourself at risk to not compete, and b just affecting your meet day performance. If you come in too heavy and you have to cut additional weight when it's you have a shorter weigh-in time, then that's gonna affect your performance. But if you're coming in too light as well, that's also gonna affect your performance if you can't get back up to your training weight. So that's just general things I would
Yeah,
consider.
you said a couple things there that I kind of wanted to touch on. Coming in too light is like that is a very I was gonna say like a newer lifter mistake, but like I think a lot of lifters they get scared that they're not gonna make weight just because they're just not experienced, and they come in like hella light. Delaney's like smiling right there. They come in like super light, and it sucks because weight moves weight, and you always want to be as heavy as possible, but still make the weight, right? Unless you're like going for some sort of like weird formula thing. But I do agree that um, you know, me making weight just doesn't mean just starve. And the worst thing, like something that sucks, is like a lifter that will do everything right. You do your whole prep, you're hitting PRs in the gym, and let's say you're like 5 pounds over, right? And then you're cutting weight, and you just like super overdo it, and then you just like ruin all that. Like it's such a um in the early days, in the early days, I remember like prepping like newer lifters, and they would do everything good, and then we would get to the meet, and I like they would be like, either they're not communicating or they weigh in like super light, and then in my mind I'm saying, okay, well all those PRs you hit, you weighed like 9 pounds more. So it's probably a good idea to be very cautious and understand that like when you hit those numbers, you're much heavier. And now that you weighed in so light, I mean, you might still be able to hit it barely, but like, it's not what you want to be doing. So I would rather, I think in time lifters will get better with that. Um, so Jeremy, what are some habits or what are some, let's use yourself as an example. What are some things that you do when you're coming into a meet, um, that either it's something that you do normally in prep, like you said, track your macros and things like that, um, or something that for you personally you feel like you could do better. If you think it's like, damn, I'm really good at like keeping everything on point, then say that too, and maybe emphasize some points that you really think lifters need to pay attention to.
I mean, so yeah, I would say like for all of my meets, I've always came in pretty on top of things.
Yeah.
But I will say like from the mental aspect of a lot of lifters I tend to work at, it comes there's like it depends, right? That's how everything is in lifting.
Yeah.
Some lifters, let's say you're more like angry, hyped, high energy
Mhm.
lifter, who they're just like absolutely excited to get on the platform. I believe that's like a sort of mindset that they should continue to have if it really
Mhm.
allows them to like peak their arousal, especially so that they could like maintain that energy and use it positively to help them execute in the meet, right? But then on the other hand, you might have like nervous or anxious lifters who I tend to suggest to like stay away from solely thinking about their meet and just try to find that balance between life and lifting, right? Because I feel a lot of lifters they tend to be really super like anxious about competing and they're just like breaking at the thought of it.
Mhm.
And for people like that, like during their taper week, during their meet week, I always try to tell them like try not to think of the meet like just training in general, like when you're outside of the gym. I think when you're in the gym, that's the right time to think of things and time to like really get your mindset right because of course that's going to be a similar setting to the meet. But most people they likely have other things going in on their life, and I think it's very important to find that balance, especially when things are getting overwhelming during meet prep. And then I guess if we're applying that to meet day, I tend to tell them treat it as any other day of training, right? Environment and what you're doing is different than what you're doing in any other training day, but I believe like focusing in on maintaining their energy and executing, they'll have much better results than like forcing themselves to be high lifters, getting hyped up, and then they end up
When
botching
they're
their execution.
like when they're not
Yeah, or
normally a high lifter, you're saying don't try to
exactly.
pretend to be one that you're not. That's good. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, like, a lot of lifters who just, like that's not how they are mentally, and
Yeah.
I don't believe that's something you should, like, force yourself leading up to the meet, especially because like, so you could botch your execution or you'll just end up running out of gas and adrenaline, like, early in the day, so,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think that's really I think that's really good. You don't want to I'll never forget this. I think it was, oh man, it was like so many years ago. It must have been like 7 years ago, maybe 8. I remember Tina, it was like one of our earlier days together. So she was like competing, and I was like a very passionate person, and I would like try to get gas her up. I think it was at the Arnold. It might have been my first or second Arnold. And I was like hyping her up before a lift. I think it was squat because she's really nervous on squat, and she was like, "Don't do that." She was like, "Don't do that." She's like, "Nah, you're scaring me. Like you're making me nervous." So that's when I learned for her. From that moment forward, like people need to be how they are. Me personally, when I compete, I'm very like, "Oh shit, this is a big ass weight. Let me calm the fuck down," and I like hold it in, and my mind is kind of racing, but I'm kind of controlling those thoughts, and I'm trying to just put it towards, you know, reassuring that I can do this lift, like this is what you hit in training, you can complete this, committing, and I think that is something that me personally I know that I do well is like I can channel that. Um, but yeah, that was a good answer, Delaney. What are some things? You can jump in on that if you want. But I was gonna ask you, what are some things that you do or that you really want lifters to pay attention to coming into a meet, during that taper week, that last, week coming, those last 5 days, 7 days, whatever. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, go take it.
Yeah, I think for me, what I think about like that week leading up to the actual meet, like it's a reminder for myself that like there's nothing that you're going to do in these 5 or 7 days that is going to make you stronger,
Hmm.
but you can do things that can hurt your performance. So everything should be about optimizing whatever strength you've been able to build up over the course of this prep and not trying to force something extra that you naturally wouldn't do. So one thing that comes up a lot, like whether it's younger lifters that I see in my gym or just in general, we have this like love for meet day and this like whole idea about how it's going to actually turn out. And
Hmm.
it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to hit this huge PR, and like before I get on the stage, I got to hit the PR in the gym. And then like that last single that was supposed to be a 6 or a 7 or maybe an 8 or whatever the case may be, you turned into a 9.5, and now you messed up your meet day because you tried to force something. So I think that just doubling down on your RPEs, doubling down on following your program, doubling down on doing the things that you did day in and day out, and not trying to force things before it's supposed to happen is one huge thing. And then, I guess from going to the double down standpoint, double down on all the things that you're supposed to be doing throughout prep. Right? I'm extremely busy, so sometimes sleep is hard for me to get. Sometimes tracking is difficult. Sometimes making sure that stressors around you. We all have life. Life happens to everybody. So controlling, I guess, like what you can control. And so like that last week, for most of my preps and most of my meets, I try to create a scenario where there's nothing else that I have to worry about but lifting for that point in time and just optimizing everything for that particular day, right? You can't do that year round, right? We all have lives, but there's those ebbs and flows and those balances where one thing is going to take precedence over the other. And so like that meet for me, work takes a back seat. Family things take a back seat. Other things take a back seat. Not that I'm ignoring all of it, but just making sure that I can optimize my sleep. I'm getting my 8-9 hours. Making sure the food is on point. Making sure when I go into the gym, I'm staying true to the RPEs and I'm not letting like my excitement get the better of me and trying to force and do things that I know I probably shouldn't be doing. And so for me, I think it's not necessarily, hey, what can we do to become stronger in that last week? Is what can we do to maximize everything that we've done over the weeks and weeks and months of training up into that point. And so that's what I really think about when it comes to like that last week coming up to peak week.
Yeah, what comes to mind when I hear you say that is this is the time to sacrifice, right? Like, I mean, if you haven't been, any time that,
Absolutely.
anytime that you are pushing for something super important or big or special, like a Sheffield, which Delaney had the opportunity to participate in the first one ever. You're gonna have to sacrifice some stuff to make that happen. And I would say meet week especially. A big one that I ask lifters is like if I have a guy who I know like this man's grinding at work, he works like a crazy hard job. I'll be like, are we gonna be getting a couple days of rest or what? You're gonna be able to have that Thursday, Friday to chill. Now, kind of going off of what Jeremy said, where like if that lifter normally, like if they work a calm job where they're not really active, if they're home, rest, not doing that, they're thinking about the meet, and now they're getting anxious, and now it could be worse. It just depends on how stressful their job is. If their job is like hella stressful, and they want to get out and relax and focus on the meet, then they should do that. But if their job is physical, like if you're normally taking like 10,000 steps a day, which is pretty significant, if you could cut that down to like 3,000 those last like 4 or 5 days coming in the meet, you're gonna peak like so hard. Like you're gonna have so much extra energy and feel so much better coming into the meet, and see a level of performance that you just cannot replicate normally because I don't ever taper you guys like that crazy in normal training. Also, um, you're not going to be able to take work off all the time. You know what I'm saying? So if you're taking off some work
Yeah.
to compete, then you're gonna, like I said, like you're gonna be. I tell them like you're gonna be, you're not even gonna know what to do with yourself. You're gonna feel so good. Um, so just to summarize, like really lock in on the variables. Make sure that the food, water, sleep, stress, all that. Um, maybe let me just like throw a scenario out there. Maybe you have like a long distance girlfriend and you usually drive like multiple hours to go see her, during a certain day or whatever. But you're competing. Maybe this is not the week to do that. Maybe this is the week to really lock in and focus on, you know,
She's going to have to come to you.
she's gonna have to come to you, right?
She's going to have to come
Compromise,
to you.
right? We'll do the relationship counseling episode another time. But
Yeah.
Jeremy, there you go.
Call the
Okay,
Uber.
I was gonna say Jeremy, your
Yeah.
screen cut out, but I think it's good. It just came back.
Yeah, it's lagging a little bit.
No worries, no worries. But yeah, and then so we're focusing on our sleep, our water, our food, our protein. We're trying to get extra rest here and there where we can. Um, I would say you don't really have to up calories because if you're doing less and you're eating maintenance, you're gonna be in a small surplus, right? Um, you're eating into meats usually, Delaney, right? Like is your food a little bit higher?
Yeah, usually historically, I'll be a little bit lighter, maybe like 4 weeks out, which gives me a little bit of room to play with. And so as we're like peaking and doing some other stuff, I get to have a little bit more food than usual. So typically I'm eating into it a little bit more, or sometimes I just have to maintain based on just where body weight's at. But I've never really been in a position where like I had to like hard crash diet my food down because I was just too far overweight. So I didn't have that stress
And the reason
when I
the
was
reason why I asked you specifically is because like you do cut more than Jeremy, and I know that Berto is like really making you, focus on the max. Focus on the max. Whereas Jeremy, I believe you get to eat into this meat, correct?
I normally do like, or at least for my last meet, I did a small gut cut. It was only like 3% body weight that I had to lose. So, I mean, outside of meet, diet stays pretty chill. Like, I'm
Hmm.
never that far over the weight class, and yeah, I mean, making weight's pretty like easy for me.
Yeah. So again, especially when I was not cutting, when I was doing 120s, like I'm chilling. I'm eating whatever. I'm I want to be bigger and stronger than I ever have been coming into that meet. So to cap it off, what are some things that lifters can do mentally to prepare themselves for meet day, aside from like having all your weight cut stuff, like your after making weight stuff, like your water, your hydration packet, whatever you're doing. Aside from that stuff, what are some things? Let's just make it personal. What are some things that you guys do? And we'll start with Delaney because we did Jeremy first last time. What are some things, Delaney, that you do? Is there any kind of mental ritual that you go through, like before squat, for example? Is there a specific song you play? Is there something you tell yourself? I mean, fuck it, I'll go first. I talk to myself before I'm about to squat, before I'm about to hit something. Opener, second attempt, I'm not thinking shit. For the third attempt, it's always something I'm afraid of. it's like, it's like holy crap, right? And I just tell myself I literally tell myself like you are who you are. Like you are fucking Joey. Like show them how to execute. Do what you do. And when I keep it simple like that, do what you do. Like this is what we do. This is what we do in the gym. This is what we practice. This is what we practice to the point of when I step on the platform, it's almost involuntary what's happening. Like my body is tightening my belt, I'm putting my hands on the rack, I'm unracking the weight, but then there's like another part of me, like the brain, and I'm like I'm like in that moment if that makes sense. And then you just fucking do it. Like you just like you unrack the weight, you wait for the command and you lift it. And that's always for me just like that little self-talk and really I just did a video on this, but like committing to it, saying like I'm gonna do this no matter what. Like whatever the fuck Tina put on there. If she put one meet she put 740, one meet she put 750, one meet she put 722. Whatever she put on there, I'm gonna just fucking lift it. And if I commit to that, I mean, it's a very freeing feeling knowing that there's no option other than to go forward. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like a the like not doing it is not an option. So that voice in your head that's like, I mean, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, like when you're going to lift a third attempt that's like super heavy, you know it's going to be heavy and it's probably going to hurt a little bit, right? It's I mean, for me that shit always hurt, right? Um I would always tell myself like you're doing this, there's no turning back, so that irrational voice in your head, it was so powerless because I had already made the decision that I'm not going to give up. So, and I think that is a very powerful thing for like just life. Like if you say I'm going to do this goal and you commit to it, then all that fear and doubt, it's like, yeah, you can I mean, you're going to feel those things. Like right? You're going to feel those involuntary like that's fight or flight. Your body's like wants to protect you, so it's like afraid of things, right? But once you commit to it, like you can't be stopped. So Delaney, is there anything that you do before a big lift, whether it be squat? I don't know if anyone's scared of bench, or deadlift, where you're just like, you know, you're helping yourself get to the platform and execute without the mental being the thing that's holding you back.
Yeah, 100%. I think for me, it's just like every one of my lifts, and I guess anybody that's seen me like lift like anything, I have like its own like routine, like its own ritual, its own little thing that I do, and it's like
Mhm.
not necessarily for like the show of it, but like for me, it's just like a rhythm and a cadence and something that I can do every single time, whether it's the bar or whether it's 700 pounds. I know that this is what I'm supposed to do. And like it just kind of puts my body in that mode. It's like, all right, well, he did this. So now the only thing we're supposed to do is squat. He did this. The only thing we know how to do is bench. He did this. This is for deadlift. And for me, it really allows me to clear my mind of everything and just be extremely present and be able to lean like on my technique, on my breathing, on those little things, on my cues that help me out. And so I'm a big believer in doing everything the exact same way. Like I warm up for squat the exact same way. I warm up for bench the exact same way. In the gym, in the meet day, like you could put like parallel kind of videos to it and it would literally look
Yeah.
exactly the same, almost down to like the second and the breathing of it all. And what I find is when I lean on those things and I have that cadence, everything flows a lot smoother. And when I allow myself to, like to Jeremy's point, like you have like those people that like they're not height lifters and then try to do something
Yeah.
different because they think it's cool or whatever. Like when I don't lean on the things that I do, that's where mistakes happen. So I just think that everybody, as small as it should be, should just have that ritual, that thing that just turns and locks your brain in. And I mean, I don't even talk to myself. I kind of just like I go out there and like I do my little dance thing, and like my mind is just clear, and I'm just
Yeah.
having fun and kind of being in that moment. And
I, I'm
that's really what I do.
I'm not like actually saying words. I'm just like in my head. Yeah. Yo, you fucking bitch! Hit this shit. Nah.
I know
um.
people that do that. I mean, like
No, I
they'll be in
mean,
the gym screaming at the weight, like, "Yeah, let's go." I'm like,
no,
it's just
I mean,
not.
I
That's not my
agree.
vibe. I'm calm.
I agree. You gotta put yourself in some sort of little. Now that I think about it, I think also for me when I'm competing, I'm very like breaking the fourth wall, if that makes sense. Like everybody's like, "Oh, damn, 750's loaded." I'm just like, I'll literally like so the big boys like the 120s like they all talk shit to each other, but it's all like a funny fun way, right? And
Mhm.
it's not like the 83s where you guys are quiet. It's like all hate, like all animosity. Everybody's fucking silent. Like nobody's saying shit. With the West, we're like shut your, we're just like roasting each other. And I think that helps me just hey man, I'm happy to be here. I want to be doing this. So um I think that does definitely help me. Jeremy, is there anything that you do before a big lift where, exactly the same question that I asked Delaney? Let me know.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess similar to Delaney's point. I really like how he said like nothing changes really. Like if you
Yeah.
put things side by side between light and heavyweight, like routine pretty much stays the same. I do believe with like myself, there is a balance between not necessarily being hype, but just like putting more energy and focus into the setup, right? Because obviously, like you're lifting heavy ass weight, right? Like
Yeah.
me, at least, I don't even train with spotters because I don't trust anyone at my gym to spot me.
Yeah.
If I don't lift that weight, I'm gonna fucking die. So it's
Yeah.
like I need to, be
Lock
mentally
in.
prepared, physically prepared, really lock in. Like, I guess in my case, I'm a fairly calm lifter. Literally, the most I'll do is just be a little more aggressive in my setup, but that's it. Like,
Yeah.
just keep things the same. Like, there's zero need to change things when it gets harder because if you're doing something you're not used to, then you're kind of putting yourself in a position to fail.
Like
So,
nose torque.
yeah, exactly. Like, I never use that. People always ask me, like, oh, do you want to use it? Like, no, I'm
I
not
think
doing
I
that.
think that's a great example of like it will literally make you forget your technique. Not like
Yeah.
us cuz we've been lifting for a while, but like newer lifters that are already nervous. Now you're adding in like a literal like stimulant. It's like it's gonna fuck you up, and you're probably gonna just forget everything. Like I've seen kids do it, and they literally jump every command because they're so like mental because of it. So
It's
um
funny you bring that up because I remember playing football. One of my favorite running back coaches always had this saying. It's like when you can do something and like look completely calm doing it and like be calm doing it, that's when you know you really mastered something. And like I've always taken that like to heart because what I find is like to your point, like we'll start adding things that we don't usually do. We have like nose torque or all this other stuff, and then all of a sudden, like, it's just chaos. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, you want to be hype, you want to be strong, but then chaos is almost just as bad as being, a little bit too suppressed and too
Yeah.
down, because then you start, your breathing's off. Now your breathing's off, your form is off. Now you're out of position. Now you're really screwed, right? And so, yeah, definitely to that point, it's like adding extra stuff or extra stimulus. Like, you can just mess yourself up just by trying to overdo it, because you're nervous or for whatever reason.
Yeah. All right. That's 25 minutes. Thank you guys. If you made it this far, let me get a hashtag real one in the comments down below. I hope you guys are able to take something away from that. Thank you, Delaney. Thank you, Jeremy, for giving me your time and sharing that with us. And I'm going to continue to try to just get more of the team on here. Um, Usually the coaches, but I will get some lifters that you guys know, and we'll just do some good videos like this. So anyway, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Say peace, fellas.
Peace.